Welcome back to the fellow viewers to UOW Malaysia KDU Jingle Mingle 2021, brought to you by SCCM and Dice Collective. I'm your host, Imran Islahalik, and my co-host.
Hi guys, my name is Raja Iril, and we are here to bring you the game development projects of 2020 to 2021. And we have another one, Water Child, an FYP project from SkyJus Works. They have also recently won awards from Sea Game Awards and Syntalk International Game and Gamification. Congratulations, guys!
Congrats!
Thank you.
Now, would the team do the honor of introducing themselves?
Hi guys, I'm Kenzie. I'm one of the programmers in Waterchild. I was mainly in charge of sound and some other parts of the game.
Hi everyone, I'm Chanza, and I'm the lead programmer for Waterchild.
Hi, I'm Jiaqi. I'm the art director for Waterchild.
Hi guys, I'm Rachel, the lead designer for Waterchild.
Thank you so much to the team to introducing themselves. I'm for sure in the viewers, they're thinking about they're unfamiliar with the game of Waterchild itself. So let's talk about what is Waterchild and what inspired you to make the game.
Okay, what is Waterchild? Waterchild is an atmospheric adventure game that is emotionally driven and it centralizes on the UX of sacrifice. It's a story of you as the player are a water spirit that's in a lifeless city and your mission is to bring life back to the land. The inspiration was from Journey with their design philosophy as well as Mononoke with their themes. That about sums it up.
So Waterchild was your final year project, right? Can you tell us what was the process of your project? What was making your team like?
So it started mainly with the lead, so me, Rachel, and Jachi. We worked together in like a previous project, and we knew that we wanted to get back together for our final year project. So we grouped up first, and we kind of like talked about it, like what do we want to make and all that. So we actually had like 1 to 2 years time to deliberate on what we wanted to make, and we still couldn't like really figure out what we wanted to make by the end of it. So we talked to some lecturers, and we had like advice from an ex-lecturer that told us that we shouldn't be focusing on the idea so much as we should be focusing on what the members want to do and what they want to showcase. Because ultimately, our final project is for us to present to the world and the industry to help us to get jobs, right? So by that, using that approach, what we did was the three of us sort of formed the team first, and then we were like, okay, so here's what we want to do mainly for the tech and the art, which is for tech we wanted to learn Unreal Engine, and we wanted to learn like how the industry people use it. And then for art, it's we it was very vague, but we just wanted like 3D stylized art. So from there we kind of like went and approached our classmates and then asked them what they wanted to do, and then see if they fit well with our what we're going for. So we actually like formed the people first, and then we came up with the idea, like, okay, we're gonna do something. I think like one of the first things was we wanted to do something with water, but we didn't really know what yet. So initially we actually had a early idea before Waterchild, which was you were going to play as a rain droplet falling down from the sky, going through the city, reaching a high point, and then evaporating back into the sky. Because we thought like, oh, that sounds like a cool idea. And I was like, oh, that's not a cool idea. I liked the idea of falling from the sky and looking down the city. But then we spent about like 2 weeks on that, I believe, right, Rachel, Jeshi? We spent like a few weeks on that, getting ready to pitch. And then near the pitch day where we had to pitch to our lecturers, we kind of realized like there was a lot of things that actually personally I didn't like. I kind of realized that afterwards, and after talking to some of the members, they kind of like, not to say they agreed, but they kind of like, oh, we don't really mind. And also, yeah, I guess that's a problem. And then maybe it would be better if it was more towards the fantastical direction. So I think like the weekend before the pitch itself, we threw away everything and then came up with a new one. And then we made the pitch and then we presented that. And that's what came to be as Waterchild. So do you guys want to talk about the MCO experience, Rachel? Otherwise, I'm the only one talking.
Jachi can go ahead first.
So MCO, right? So the first thing that comes to mind is contact with people. contact with people. So in FYP, right, I think the three leads and most of our members will agree, like we were looking forward to working together physically, and we wanted like like those college days, kind of you work together as a team and then you talk together, having fun, going to mama. Yeah,
The
we have none of
photos
that.
kind
We
of
have
thing,
none of
right?
that during MCO.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that was
we because of the online issues, it omitted right now you can see my on video, but when we discuss there's no video, there's just voice. So you can't see like on my facial expression, you only can guess the tone of my voice. Sometimes even text messages doesn't show the tone or like what we exactly mean about when we show. And because of the difficulty of truly expressing how we wanted to express, it became very difficult to understand what we wanted for each other, what we wanted for the game also. So there's a lot of miscommunication going on. So I think that's one of the main issues when it comes to the MCO experience.
So
Okay.
add on top of that, it's like because we're doing Unreal Engine and it's something that isn't taught in KDU, we kind of have to do it ourselves. So me and Kenzie and the other programmer, like we really struggled at first because we actually like approached Unreal like instead of using the typical tutorials you find online, which is a lot of it is blueprints. We straight away went for C++, and that came up with a lot of issues also. And then we, you know, eventually we kind of learned that like okay lah, we actually should be using blueprints first, and then but yeah, just learning the new Unreal Engine in general was quite tough. But I believe like it was quite good for the artists because they were like quite looking forward to using Unreal for a game project finally, right? Joshi?
Actually, the artists, right? We were looking forward to working in Unreal, but then at the same time, because Unreal in class we taught only like the tip of the iceberg only. So actually, we had to go and find out online resources like how to learn material shaders, VFX. Shout out to Trading, Substance Designer, which is an outside program, and the lighting of the game, so that we can make Water Child as more immersive experience as possible lah. Oh, there's also the optimization, guys. Did you remember the time, that 1 month we spent trying to optimize this laggy game?
I think you meant
One
trying.
FPS.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, one, yes,
Definitely.
yes.
yeah. We had one test where a player literally was playing like a slideshow lah. Like I
Yeah.
didn't think it was. I thought it was exaggeration, but then they showed us the recording. It was actually quite. Yeah, I didn't even know how they got the recording to work, but but yeah. But the that side of things was more so that the artists really went ham because like they wanted the game to look really pretty, and then they threw everything at it, and then because we have decently powerful computers, we were like, this looks okay, and then we didn't notice the frames dropping from 60 to 40 to 20, and then we just kind of went with it because to us, because we're working on it every day, right? It looks normal to our eyes, and we're like, okay, that's it's normal lah. Then we realized when we actually played test, it's like, oh wait, something is wrong. Why does it look so choppy? What's going on? Don't we have it? So
Yeah.
yeah, that was another one of the things that came about. But I think we're like going a bit off topic. I guess we should like some wrap like that. That kind of wraps up our thoughts on like what the FIP was like. Mm-mm.
That's really good insights for future FYP projects, and like they're going to make a team and what they have to think, the thought process of the games also, and also the endeavors that you had to go through to make the game. But in the end, you guys actually were featured in a G Round and an IGNC article. So how did that happen actually?
So for those that don't know, Ground is it's a game testing platform that came about recently. The idea is that they use the platform and then like budding game developers with like new game ideas, they put their game that before it's finished onto the platform and then it gets spread worldwide for people to test, and then you get feedback that way. And it's in a way it's supposed to accelerate the process, and essentially a play testing platform. It's quite a novel idea. So what happened was during last year's Jingle Mingle, we were showcasing our game for Jingle Mingle, and one of the G-round scouts or like evangelists, some of them, he was there, and he saw like our semester's games, and he actually approached another game first, one of our fellow semesters on Radio and Heist. But unfortunately, that deal fell through. I'm not sure what happened, but then the guy went and approached me on Facebook, and then I was like, huh, who's this? Because I didn't actually see him during Jingle Mingle, but he was telling me about Jira and all that, and I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And then he said that he actually contacted our lecturers already, our head of school already, and then he kind of like, it's okay. He told us like, it's okay. You guys don't have to worry about anything. We're gonna set up a meeting, and then you guys just come and see if you're interested. And I'm like, oh, okay lah. Then I think like a few days later, we had a meeting with our head of school, our head of program, with the Giron people, and then they briefed us about what it was. Uh, and then after that, we kind of like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. I mean, why not? If we can put it here, it would be kind of nice, right? It's like because they were actually looking for student games, and before this, they didn't have any student games, and we were one of the first ones they were approaching to consider put on the platform. And then after that, like we submitted to their what do you call it, like their checks and their verification and all that, and we made it through. And I believe we're the first student game to be on that platform. As I'm not sure if we're still the only student game on that platform, but at the time we were like the one and only. It's although I don't think it's like that big a deal, but we can put on our resumes and we can say, yo, we were the first and only student game on G round, and it's kind of cool. Yeah, that's for the G round. As for this IGN thing, right? That one actually we have to thank one of our seniors, Sophie.
Sophie.
Yeah. So she actually like she has a friend working at IGN, and she reached out to him and said, "Yo, you want to take a look at these games?" And then I think the guy took a look and he said, "Oh, this is interesting." And then he wrote an article about it. And then we also got onto the because like we were nominated for as a finalist for C Game Awards, we were on their list of like top 20 games to win an award this year or something like that. And then hey, well, look at that, it worked, we won. Right.
Best
And
student
then
game.
yeah, they didn't they opposite they terbalik jinxed us or something. And then also this is something that I think like most people don't know, and we even almost forgot about it, but we were actually featured on Gamescom Southeast Asia. So during the same time Gamescom was there was another Gamescom Southeast Asia, and like Malaysia we had like MDEC, these kind of companies, only a few companies, and then we were actually featured there alongside another student project, Hadal. I know it's called Hadal, but I just like pronouncing it Hadal because it sounds more intimidating. But yeah, that's like that was another thing also we applied for and we got on. So that was pretty cool. But I
So,
think I think that's about it for these kind of things. Yeah.
So we're gonna move to more of like design-based questions now. So for the designers, what was the player experience like? What do you want the player to feel out of playing your game?
For the design side, it was me and Calvert is another member designer. We wanted the players to feel like a range of emotions that would allow them to resonate with the UX that we were going for, which was sacrifice. So we tried to, how we wanted to achieve it was through music, the color palette. So when you go into a certain area, there's a certain color palette for it. And also the subtle things that would add to the experience, like how the sand shifts, how the wind particles would go around. And also through the environment, we wanted to tell the story and the lore of the work. So there was very epic cutscenes, very, very nice cutscenes. Yeah, that about sums it up for their experience.
That's a quite good summary on your environmental storytelling and the puzzles that may be used and all. But going by that, how was the level design created, and how would you gauge a puzzle or location that a player can reliably find it?
There were a number of concepts, but the one that we went with was to section off areas, and certain areas would have a different feel. But in order to ground the player and centralize the player to the goal, we have a very big temple up, very, very, very visible with a bit of like particles coming out. And that one, it serves as the weenie lah, like the central point on where they need to go. And while they're finding their way, we also have like particles like wind, which will help guide them. So as they go, they see like there's a wind, like, go there, go there. So they kind of like naturally like, oh, okay, supposed to kind of go there. So those are some of the gameplay elements that we used, and we also have like mechanics that have that like okay, the player has this ability that revives um, plants
Plants,
as well as bring back like
machinery.
machinery and also squeeze through cracks. Sorry, and when they do this, they hold on. Sorry,
Uh,
yeah, I think it went down. Sorry, and also they some of the plants they had butterflies, and the butterflies would actually is to attract them. It attracts them to it, and there's a plant there where they can use the ability to revive it, and the butterfly would then guide them to like murals, which would tell them kind of like little bits and pieces on where to go as well as the lore, what to do.
the part where Rachel was saying like it revives machinery. So the idea was that the world actually uses like water as its power source rather than how we use like fossil fuels, solar, all that stuff, right? Combination. But the world relies solely on water. That's why like all their machinery is designed about using water as a power source. So being like water child, right? You just have to fill in the water and then it actually like starts activating the machines there. Hmm. And then not to mention like sure there was a lot of like landmarks and stuff that showed the way, right? But we also like this was like the work of the designers and the artists that worked together for this. But the layout of the level was made in such a way that when you enter a place, you would sort of naturally look towards where we want you to go. uh, and
Mm.
the path itself actually like we try to make it feel like non-linear, but it was very much a very linear like level lah. Yeah, but we've
Mhm.
made it feel like there's a lot of open space and you could go further. There's more to what you're going through, but you can't actually go there. But the player doesn't actually go there because we made it that way. uh,
To add on to that is like also we try to make it feel more natural lah. Even though it's very linear, we didn't want to go make it like okay, you go here.
mm, mm, mm,
We try ways to get it to feel more natural to the player when they play, so it will increase the immersion.
Mm.
it's designed to make it feel like a city lah, like an actual city you're going through. Just so happened that the path was the only path that you could go is the path that you happen to be curious about. Something like that lah. Like that was our attempt lah. Hopefully the players did feel that, but who knows.
You guys mentioned that you guys were using Unreal Engine, right? How was the workflow compared to like other engines, like let's say Unity?
Oh, okay. So I think like the biggest difference is that at least starting off, the biggest difference is that Unreal has its own game architecture, which is to say like there is a game instance which is the program itself, and then under that you have your game mode which controls stuff like the score and all that, right? So all of these are actually baked into Unreal. And then you have like the system of the possession, which is like you have a pawn and you're a pawn. Wait, no, there's a pawn and you are a possessor, and then you possess that pawn and you can control it. So okay, this is a lot of jargon, but essentially it boils down to Unreal has its own system that you kind of have to um, adapt to. Whereas Unity, it's sort of like it gives you a blank piece of paper and you can draw whatever you want on it. So there's advantages to both and there's disadvantages to both as well. The advantage for like Unreal is that you have a really good like base starting point, and you don't have to build a lot of systems from the ground up. Whereas Unity, you have to like uh, put stuff together before you get to the point that Unreal gets at the start. The problem comes when you want to deviate from Unreal's set path. Then it becomes a problem because there's stuff you have to work around. Whereas with Unity, you can just do it. You don't have to worry about Unity structure because they don't really have a base structure, whereas Unreal does. So for ours, I personally complained a lot about it to everyone at the start, but eventually I kind of realized that actually this is good because our game just so happens to fit into what Unreal provides, and we were able to get started pretty quickly. Even though like at first it was quite slow because like I said earlier, right, we tried to use C++ for to work towards like getting into the industry, and for my other programmers like Kenzie, it was quite a challenge because surprisingly, Unreal, when you have to compile, which is when you actually like compile all of the code and then the engine does the compiling where it builds out a build for you to launch on your desktop. If your computer isn't like up to par, and you have to have a pretty good computer to be up to par, it takes hours to build. If I remember correctly, Kenzie, correct me if I'm wrong, you took like 4 hours initially just to compile like the first time, and then we
roughly
yeah.
around there.
Yeah, and then after that, we actually had to. We were like, just so happened lah. Like, the other programmers were thinking of upgrading their computers. So we actually like upgraded their computers. Mine was okay, but they had to upgrade theirs to actually get it to the point where we were able to iterate on the game in a reasonable amount of time, right? And then even now, when I'm working, I have some of my colleagues that have like weaker computers. Their compile times take like 2 hours. So every time they have to recompile, and given that the project I'm working on, Gigabash, is like a lot bigger, imagine like our base empty project, 4 hours for Kenzie to compile. For them, it's like 2 hours even on a pretty decent computer, right? It's like it balloons like very heavily. Unity is very easy, you just type some code, right? Auto saves for you. You go back to the engine, and then it just compiles for you. There's like a 2-second pause, and then boom, it's done. But Unreal, for some reason, it takes very long. Yeah, but eventually we kind of like got used to it, and then like as actually like we have a lot of mechanics, right? Like we have the fountain and these bathhouse. That one we actually made in like 1 to 2 weeks, because by that time, right, we knew how blueprints work, and we just went with it.
That's very good insight in the workflow itself, and especially for students who want to use Unreal Engine in the future, so they would know they have this time to compile, then like they need to know how many hours to do it if they have a big project. So we'll be moving on to the art and audio questions. So I'll be starting with the art questions. Noticing how the structures the game have their own unique designs, what inspired the art direction, and how did it turn out the way it is?
Jess, you're muted. Jashi?
We wanted to make like initially our inspiration is Egyptian Mesopotamian architecture. But then it kind of fell flat because it kind of looks uninteresting, and we were like kind of like lost in a sense with our direction we are going. And then one day, our two environment artists, Andrew and Wang Chi, they came here and then be like, "Yo, so we found these Indian structures. So we were thinking about like putting this in the game. What do you think?" And then by that time, right, we were already like 3 months into the project. But then it's like, you know what? It's like their FYP also. So I told them something like, we give you like 2 weeks. Actually, the lecturer also said, we're like, you sure you want to do this in 2 weeks?
Yeah, because we
And then,
kind of
yeah,
we made the
because
whole map.
yeah, we made the whole map already, and then we were like on a direction. It was not it was not satisfying, but we were on a direction already. You sure you want to scrap all of that? And then they were like,
Yeah.
2 weeks? Yeah, 2 weeks. Okay.
I think
And then
the lecturer was like, if you can do it by next week, then I'll let you do it. If by next week you're not done, then you go back to this one. And then
Yeah.
them being the gods they are, they did it.
they did it. Yeah. So yeah, it was probably a very torturous time for design and them to rework the map and give feedback, all that, right, Rachel? Rachel, look at your face.
Yeah, it was challenging, but it paid off lah. I feel at the end. Yeah.
Mm-mm. So I realized I didn't mention about the art style. So I'm just gonna add in that we initially wanted to go for shell shaded and more painterly art style, but through experimentation for the first month, again it fell through because there were a lot of things that didn't work with our game and what the style that we were thinking of going for. So through trial and error, we came to this hand painted but stylized sort of art style lah. Yeah, I think that's it.
I see. Kenzie, you mentioned that you are a programmer in charge of sound, right? It's rare
Yep.
to see student projects with dedicated sound programmers. Can you tell us about why there was so much focus on sound for this project, like the music style and what instruments were used?
Yeah, so in Waterchild, actually from the start, we kind of knew what kind of direction we wanted in terms of gameplay and the entire design and how things play together. So we actually noticed that in video games, since ours is very environmental centric, it must be sight and it must be sound type. So vision and aural, we wanted to go for that. So in Waterchild, we wanted a dynamic kind of soundtrack system designed by our lead designers and also Calvert also. So in terms of tech, we actually had to implement Fmod, which dynamically it improves the entire system like about 3 times, I think, as I remember, because at the start we actually didn't have it. So around, I think it was already 4th or 5th month into it, we had 6 months to produce it. So we had to quickly implement everything. So for the sound, actually, it's a lot of people liked it, but we actually had other plans because based on one of our mentor, our lecturers, he recommended. He says that if it's a environmental game, you obviously you want music, but he also says you got to give it more style and flair. Which he actually says that why don't go back to your roots, which is more oriental and stuff, more Asian. So we actually wanted to put in like ocarinas, Zune kind of instruments. There were even like water drums that we were thinking about, but because of MCO, we couldn't do it. So that's kind of sad. Yeah, but that's it.
We did I think we did experiment with a bit, like we told our composer, so we actually like asked one of our friends who was he did composing for hobby to try out some different instruments, and then we tried it, and I think like either we didn't have time to like do it right, so we just kind of went with like the easier route, which was just to use like traditional classical instruments, but it ended up like it didn't like we didn't go with that lah. Yeah, but we do have like, I think like this is one of like our nicest parts, which is Kenzie like doing the dynamic sound system. So Kenzie, do you want to tell us like how that works?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. So actually the designers, what they wanted it is like when we reach a certain checkpoint, at first in the environment, you will only hear like 1 or 2 instruments playing. But once the player completes all of the puzzles, I think it was like, for example, is there spoilers? Or I don't know. Okay. Never mind, I just review some spoilers. But if there are people who wants to play it, but it's quite old. So basically there's like the fountain there, and then you gotta activate like 3 generators. But as you activate the generators, you will actually hear instruments playing in. You will add on into it layer and layer. So Fmod actually kind of really improves that, because if you're doing it in Unreal Engine default one, it's quite messy. Especially since I think it was the problem was actually the delay and stuff. It doesn't really align well in Unreal Engine. So Fmod actually technically also improves the latency. Yeah.
Yeah, it also
So
improves like
that's how it works.
oh yeah, so it also improves like our
No, wait.
file sizes and all that. So like after going through Fmod, I believe the sound files actually get smaller. So it's like overall like our project it
Yeah.
gets smaller. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
the
sound is like,
compression is a bit slightly better.
yeah, and the sound is actually like it does take up quite a bit of space, like people don't realize, but it does take up quite a bit of space, especially if you go for like higher was it higher quality, like 320 kbps kind of audio or even higher than that. But yeah, so I think that's like the sound lah. It's one of the systems that I think like our team is quite proud of, and does make our game like quite a bit unique from other student projects.
That's quite a bit of thought process you have put through into making the sound itself to make very unique in your game itself, and also understand the use of sound. So there's one bonus question we will ask. It's a serious question. Is that there's been a debate between in the game about the child, whatever water is wet or not? Is water child wet?
Okay, so I'm guessing this is like water itself isn't wet, but the stuff that water touches is wet.
Yeah.
Uh, I will
Very
say
much.
yes, because water child does have parts of him or her or it that are not water, and thus that those parts are in contact with the parts that are water, which is the hair. So technically speaking, it is wet.
But you can consider it like this lah, like wet cloth. When you touch it, it's wet. So if you touch water child, your hand is wet. So water
Yep.
child is wet.
I see.
Oh yeah.
Good analogy. Yeah, that's a good analogy.
That is a very good analogy, yeah. I guess that is all for our interview with the team behind Waterchild. Once again, congratulations to the team for your award-winning work. It's really a pleasure to have all of you on the show. We would also like to thank everyone for tuning in. This is UOW Malaysia's Jingle Mingle 2021, brought to you by the School of Computing and Creative Media and Dice Collective. And see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you to SkyJus Works for being part of this year's Jingle Mingle. It's been a pleasure to be able to have you guys to talk about your experiences in creating Waterchild. If you are interested in trying out Waterchild yourself, you may do so by checking out the link in the description below. Up next, we are featuring Game Artist student Jamie Lau as he talks about his experiences in creating his concept art portfolio. Tune into the show happening on the UOWM Game Development channel. We'll see you there.